Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 65 of the GVGCast. I'm your host for today, Ash Paulson, and I'm joined by my dear friend and GVG co-founder, Steve Bowling, and only Steve Bowling. It's just the two of us today. Derek and Daniel are both working on videos. Brandon's busy with some guests he's hosting at his house. And, of course, John is asleep, or he better be, because it's 1 a.m. over there. So you got the two of us today, and, yeah, happy Friday, everybody. How's it going, man?
It's going good. It's been a crazy week. I have some personal stuff going on. Not bad personal stuff, but stuff I'm not ready to share publicly.
For sure.
Know what I'm talking about. We've talked about it.
Yeah.
But yeah, we've so I've been elsewhere. I've been distracted, but I'll be able hopefully to share that with the rest of you in the audience here soon. But yeah, lots of cool stuff going on in my world. Not a lot of game playing going on these last few days. I tried Exoprimal, and I have big thoughts about that.
Oh, okay. I definitely want to try that. I'd like to play it with you and our group. I don't really have too much interest in playing the single player, especially with FF16 on the docket for me. I'm still chipping away at Tears of the Kingdom because that game is just endlessly massive. But I can see the light at the end of the tunnel now. I'm getting to the point where I can see myself finally finishing it. And then after that, I got to go right into FF16 because there's no way I can go into a Game of the Year discussion later this year without having played the next big mainline Final Fantasy. So that's the next one for me.
Yeah. So real quick, I don't want to dive too far into Exoprimal, but I have bad news for you if you want to play single player because there is none. So, in fact, there is one mode, just one, and it's a mode in a video game. Fortunately, I will say thank you to Capcom for graciously providing us with enough codes for me to get anybody on the team who wants it access to it. But yeah, Ash, I'm going to be curious to see what you think when you play.
I got you. Okay, and actually, Frequent Positron in our live audience chat just mentioned that the story is unlocked by playing multiplayer, which they sure made it seem like in that Capcom showcase trailer that there was going to be a bespoke single-player story mode.
Yeah, so expect a video from me over the weekend on my thoughts on Exoprimal, so I don't want to go too far into it here. If you saw my review on GX of Little Town Hero, I'm going to bring similar energy. So stay tuned for that. So it's a game that I've played.
All right.
But I'll be prepping that either tomorrow or later tonight, but
okay.
I'll say I played it with a friend, and that turned into a Street Fighter 6 night pretty quick.
Oh wow! All right, fair enough. Well, I'm looking forward to checking that out, and I guess I should tease a video that I'm working on now too. And I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but it is a video related to the Super Mario RPG remake. I don't want to say more than that right now. Some of our patrons already know what it is, and if you do, please don't spoil it. But I am working on a Mario RPG remake-related video that I'm so excited to get out to everyone. So certainly look forward to that. And yeah, it's just things are trucking along over here in GVG land. As always, we do have to shout out our incredible sponsor, The Game Orb. The Game Orb is a YouTube channel that brings commentary and gameplay footage from the Nintendo Switch and Xbox Series X gaming systems. While games like Pokemon Let's Go Pikachu can be seen on the channel along with others, the Game Orb will also now be adding Splatoon 3, Super Mario Sunshine, and Fall Guys to the gaming collection. So be sure to subscribe to the Game Orb at the link in the description, and I will have a link up in our YouTube chat shortly, as usual. But yeah, as I always say, they have been supporting us at our highest Patreon tier from the very beginning. So please do go show them some love, subscribe, like their videos, check them out. And if you have anything, any of you out there, if you have anything you want to promote on our show, consider maybe checking out our sponsorship tier on Patreon. We do have multiple slots open for that. So just in case you have something you'd like to promote, maybe check it out. We also have some patron birthday shout-outs this week, quite a few. Happy, quite a bit belated birthday to Rain in Clouds, whose birthday was on Monday, June 26th. Thank you so much for being so patient for this birthday shout-out. So happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, Eastman23, who celebrated their birthday on Wednesday, July 12th, just this week. Happy birthday to Blaystar25, who is celebrating their birthday this Sunday, July 16th. And then finally, happy birthday to Frequent Positron, who is celebrating theirs on Monday, the 17th. So lots of July birthdays.
Yeah.
So happy birthday to everyone. And yeah, so we've got a few things to discuss news-wise today. I think we've kind of already gone over what we're playing. As I said, I'm still chipping away at Tears of the Kingdom, playing some Rocket League when I can fit it in. But yeah, for me, it's all about just finishing Zelda and then moving on to Final Fantasy. In terms of the things I've been up to, mainly just work and working on GVG stuff, managing Patreon stuff, trying to get some gaming time in here and there, and spending as much time with my wife as I can. So that's pretty much what's been going on my end. Now, as I said, actually, before we move on, Steve, last week you couldn't be here, but Derek and I got to talk about the Rashid reveal trailer for Street Fighter 6, and you being our biggest fighting game aficionado. I love fighting games, but you love them.
Yes.
Did you want to say anything about Rashid, his trailer, the way he plays? Are you looking forward to him? Like, how you feeling?
So it's funny. I've not seen the trailer. Like I said, I've had cause to be distracted from video games for the past like couple of weeks.
For sure.
And I can't. I don't mean to be cryptic with you guys. It's very uncertain. Nothing's bad. I'm okay. But
Right.
I've just been a little distracted from video games for a bit. So I have not seen Rashid's gameplay trailer yet. I'm actually watching it as we speak. So I'm going to give you a little bit of a live breakdown because it's only about a minute and a half. But Rashid was one of my favorite additions to Street Fighter V. I like that we finally got a character, a Middle Eastern character, because we haven't had that. We had Hakan in Street Fighter IV, but I believe Hakan was Turkish.
Yes, I believe he was.
Whereas Rashid is I'll be honest, I can't even remember specifically what country from which Rashid hails, but I like the idea of the character that he's like a techie kind of nerdy guy who, specializes in like wind-based martial arts. He's very agile. He may be Saudi. I'm just not sure. I'm totally not certain. And I don't want to sound like an idiot and misquote. So
Right.
If that's what you guys are saying, I believe you and I trust you. I'm just saying that I don't remember. He wasn't a main for me, but I think he's a really cool, tricky character. I like that he is modern in the sense that he's like obsessed with social media and he likes to
He's a
stream
streamer
his own
now.
fights.
Yeah. It's so good.
To me, that's like a really cool take on a modern Street Fighter character, especially when coupled with the fact that when you look at the older World Warriors, they seem to not get it. Like they don't understand that.
Yeah.
So I think that's a really cool way of, truly implying that Rashid is a member of a new generation of fighters.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for him. Do I think I'll play him? Probably not. Do I think I'll be confounded by people who do? Yeah. He's a cool character. I like him a lot. Probably not my play style necessarily because I'm just an old school Ryu main, but
Right.
Definitely a welcome addition to the roster. Super cool. And, it's weird to say that he has his classic outfit because he's from Street Fighter V, but I do like that they included that as well. So yeah, cool reveal. Excited to try him. I'll definitely go into the lab with him and see how they've changed him, but
Nice.
Probably not going to main him anytime soon. Akuma's probably the best bet out of Wave 1 for me to find somebody different from Ryu to main. So different, right?
So different. I am looking forward to seeing how his new redesign looks in game, though, his in-game character model, because it's so radical from what we've seen of the concept art, his appearance in Street Fighter 6. So looking forward to seeing what he's going to look like. The one thing that really stood out to me about Rashid is, and Max Dude pointed this out in his breakdown, is the incredible animation on his clothing.
Oh yeah.
Like, geez, the way his clothing animates is just next level. He looks so good.
Street Fighter 6 in general has incredible animation, like the muscle deformation and stuff like that. It's next level. Ironically, I think that Zangief is one of the best looking characters in the whole game. Like he looks somehow, despite being so weirdly proportioned, he is almost the most believably human looking person in the whole game. And I think it's because even though he's like really big, he's not like super ripped. Like his muscles aren't crazy defined, whereas everyone else has these kind of impossibly large shoulders and really big hands. Yeah,
Luke's giant freakish forearms.
Luke with his Popeye ass forearms.
They're so weird.
They weird me out. They make me uncomfortable.
Yeah, no, same here. But that's actually the other thing I need to get to after I'm finally done with Tears of the Kingdom is more Street Fighter 6. I played through a few arcade mode runs like Kimberly's, Ken's, I think Jury's. but I need to like properly dive into World Tour because I want to play so much more Street Fighter 6. I just had to really laser focus on Zelda. But that and Street Fighter 6, FF16, I'll be playing alongside one another until Sea of Stars comes out. I'm going to try to finish both before Sea of Stars comes out, which we'll be talking about a little later today. Well, before we move on to the news, we have a few super chats to read out. First off, we have Disney Duncan. Well, a pair of super chats from Disney Duncan for $10 and $2 respectively. Thank you so much. First one, I think Marvel is in trouble, not just because of the strike, but that their recent films have been losing money. If there's any hope, my bet is on Deadpool 3 to be a box office success to save the MCU. Even if they are losing money, the recent ones, if that's true, the MCU is not going anywhere. It's still making gobs and gazillions and bazillions of money. I don't believe that the MCU is in any sort of mortal danger. Will the pace of movies slow down? Maybe, but it's the MCU. I just don't. Even when they're not doing as well, they're still making absurd amounts of money. So that's my personal opinion. Do you have any thoughts on that, Steve?
I think you're right. I think the MCU is an institution in film at this point, so I don't think it goes away, even if films have been losing money. And to be fair, I had to look this up because I don't really follow box office figures too much, but from what I understand, the most recent Ant-Man film is the only non-pandemic film to lose money, and I would blame the other ones on the pandemic. I mean, people just weren't going to the movies. How could you if you didn't feel safe? And also, some theaters just weren't open. Like my theaters around me weren't open for business during the pandemic.
Oh, really?
So I don't necessarily think that it's indicative of the future of the MCU as a whole. I do think there's fatigue. I think people are getting kind of tired of like a constant unrelenting barrage of Marvel content. But I don't think that it's going to signal like them just scrapping it. What I do think is we get kind of the obvious desperation maneuver of them maybe being like, okay, we need to go back to the glory days. We need to somehow shoehorn Iron Man back into a movie, like get Robert Downey Jr. to come back for a movie, because that would be hype. I would go. I think a lot of people would go. So I don't think I don't think the end is nigh for Marvel. I think it's just, it's not every hero is going to be as popular. There's a reason that Ant-Man comics don't sell as well as Iron Man comics, or Spider-Man comics. Right. And, I still view certain Marvel movies as like an event, but I've always had that. Like I've thought, like I skipped Captain America movies in the theaters because I don't care about Captain America, but I went and saw Iron Man and Thor. So for me, it's always mattered more about the hero and not about the movie necessarily. So like I've never seen an Ant-Man movie in the theater. I've streamed all of them.
They're pretty good. Yeah. That's fair. Plus, Duncan, we also have to remember we're only a couple of months out from Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3, which not only in my opinion was a phenomenal movie that made me cry way too much, but also as I remember reading it, it did really well at the box office. So I think it's really going to be fine. We'll see how it goes, but I don't think the MCU is going anywhere. And then your other super chat is that, on the other hand, still with the MCU, Secret Invasion is amazing. And I agree. My wife and I have been keeping up with Secret Invasion, and we're really enjoying it.
Man.
I'm a little sad that it's already half over, or more than half over, because I'm really liking it. And we're finally getting to see a full series with Sam Jackson, with his amazing Nick Fury. And I'm not ready for it to end. It's great.
Yeah, I've started it, but I have to go back and rewatch it because my kids are home for summer break. And so every time I've tried to watch it, they've been like bickering with each other because they've just been in the house too long together. So I'm hopeful that that I'll get to sit down and just enjoy some silence and watch it. And then I'll put it together because it does seem like a really fun mystery plot to unravel.
It is. Although I would also say, speaking of your kids, it is a fair bit more raw and just darker and more violent than some other MCU TV series or streaming series tend to get. So probably not the most kid-friendly show compared to something like Miss Marvel or Loki or something. It's pretty intense. So definitely not for younger kids at all. So do keep that in mind for sure. The Hype Police are coming for Secret Invasion. Apparently, we haven't heard the LA Hype Police in a while, but here they are. Next up is our good friend Jaden Buck with $5. Thank you very much. Crazy Question Fridays, crazy question number 90. What types of food do you think would be easier to eat with an extra set of arms? I mean, all of them, but let's say wings specifically, because wings and ribs are really messy stuff, right? Like, I feel like that would be a lot easier because your hands get so messy so quickly with like ribs
Yeah,
and
because you could have
wings and
like
stuff.
napkin arms to clean the other arms with. I'm
Exactly.
down for that.
Yeah, and hey, it's more chicken, more meat, which I know you're always down for. Wording, I heard it as I said it. But with that, we're gonna move right on to Jacob Tucker super chat for $5. Thank you very much. Sup, GVG? I'm going to Super Nintendo World next weekend. Very much looking forward to all the park and Universal as a whole have to offer. Well, Jacob, look forward to that. I have been.
Yeah.
It is such a cool experience. I'm
Take
not
pictures
gonna.
of the
Yeah.
Pikmin you find.
Yes, please do. And apparently, you're going to get to meet Toad now. They just added Toad to the list of characters in costume that you can meet at Super Nintendo World now. So certainly look forward to that. Or I think they're soon adding Toad, so hopefully he'll be there by the time you're there. But it's a very special experience. My wife and I had a great time, so look forward to it. I won't spoil it anything more than that. I'll just say pay special attention to the set design because it is next level detailed and so full of Easter eggs for fans of Nintendo and especially Super Mario. So look forward to that. I'm so happy you're going. And then one more from Duncan for now, then we'll move on to the news. And of course, I will read out the rest of the super chats as they come in and throughout the rest of the show. Duncan with $2 more asks, any criticisms about Tears of the Kingdom? Well, yes, as a matter of fact. I love it. I love the game so much, but I don't like how there's no easy way to keep track of the old map treasures you found and like the treasures in the depths, which are various like outfits and classic outfits like Wind Waker, Twilight Princess, whatever. And I also just, it's too big. I love it. I love it. But I don't know that anyone needed a game. Well, not anyone. I don't know that I needed a game that was Breath of the Wild times 3. Breath of the Wild was already massive, and it's this is that, but triple that. And it's a little bit too much. I think I've hit the upper limit with how big I want my games to be in terms of content. It's just too much sometimes. That said, I still love it, and I'm still playing it after like 100 hours. So take that criticism as you will.
I'm gonna level a different criticism that's probably gonna make people mad.
Oh.
The sword play is too simple.
Sure.
I actually want a Link that knows more sword techniques. Like, and it dawned on me the other day because I was describing the fact to my brother that Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom Link has the downward thrust from Zelda 2. But the only way you can do it is by walking off of something and then hitting the button to slash while falling from walking off a ledge. I'm like, why is that move in there? What is the use of it? Like, what's the practical application of it? It's such a useless move that the game doesn't teach you about it. Like, they couldn't figure out how to make it work. And so I just thought that was very bizarre that they included like a move that is a throwback for Zelda fans, but they couldn't like show you how to do it. So I think that there's a way to, I think that there was a way to like improve the flow of combat without sacrificing any of the fun of it. Like I think I honestly prefer Wind Waker's combat, which is something that's weird for me to say. I like the shield bash. I like the Flurry Rush. I love those, but I really loved the counter system from Wind Waker, especially the way it wove into the music. Like,
me too. I love that so much. Yeah, I agree with that in general. I always thought Breath of the Wild's combat was good, and certainly I love how organic it was and how you could, mess with different things in the environment to take some really creative approaches to enemies. And this game has that even more in spades with all the stuff you could do with Ultra Hand and I can't remember the name of it, but the time reversal one. But at the same time, I wish the swordplay itself was more complex. And as Alpha Lion mentioned in our live audience chat, Twilight Princess did play with this. It's not a game that I love, but it did play with this where you could learn the new sword techniques.
Yep.
Yeah. So I kind of wish they did implement something like that. And that's probably the only time you'll hear me say, man, I wish this other Zelda game would do something Twilight Princess did. But here we are, and I do agree with that for sure. So I'm sorry, all the Twilight Princess lovers out there.
Hold on, I gotta lay the easy one out there too.
Okay.
The game could run better. like it could just run better, and I don't think you can argue that. I think that's just a fact. Like, if Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom ran at 60 FPS, they would objectively just be better games for it.
Sure, I agree with that, but I'm also two minds on it because yes, obviously, objectively, they would be better if it ran at 60 FPS. On the other hand, and I tweeted out a really pretty screenshot from the game a few days ago on Twitter, and it got a lot of traction. And I made the point that, like, man, yeah, the Switch's hardware is ancient for sure. It's not 60 FPS, but I am so freaking impressed by what this game is able to do, being as big as it is on such ancient hardware. The fact that you can go straight from the depths to the surface, to the sky with no loading, and it still looks as good as it does and runs mostly at 30 FPS, given how ancient the hardware is, I am so impressed. But yes, of course you're right. Of course you're right with that it would be better at 60. And it'd be nice to see maybe an update for the game when the next hardware comes out. Who knows? But am I just being too much of an old man to say that I'm impressed by what this game pulls off?
I don't think so at all. I actually talked about this on The Win, which, if you don't know, is our Patreon exclusive Nintendo focused podcast. New episodes every Saturday. But I talked about this and the difference between what I would call a gamer's impressive game and an impressive game. And I was drawing the distinction specifically between Tears of the Kingdom as a gamer impressing game and Mario Kart 8 Deluxe as just a straight, broadly impressive game where even if you don't understand the science and the technology and the art of games, you can look at Mario Kart 8 and be like, wow, that is impressive. I like that, which to me is why you have just it sitting atop the Switch library with all those sales. Whereas people like you and me who have grown up with the art form of games, who understand how hard these things are to make. You know, we can look at a game like Tears of the Kingdom and we can accept, yes, it runs kind of poorly in areas, but because of all of the things happening and how beautiful it is, right? Like, I look at Tears of the Kingdom and I'm like, this whole thing fits in my pocket. Like, this is wild, right?
Yeah.
And I don't care that it runs at 15 FPS in some spots because holy crap, like, you know, look at all the stuff it's doing.
The insane coding behind something like Ultra Hand and all the fusing you can do and all the, I mean, it's and Recall, which, thank you for the reminder. It was called Recall, of course. Just the unbelievable coding that goes into something like that, on top of the fact that you've got a world thrice the size of Breath of the Wild with no loading in between. Yes, of course, with shrines there are, but other than that, it just blows my mind. It really does. And you know, you made such a great point about Mario Kart, Steve, because I have said before, and it's kind of a weird way to think about it, but I am so, yes, that game continues to look so amazing. And even though obviously we have plenty of console games now that look way better than the best arcade games, to me, I still get that feeling from Mario Kart that it's like, gee whiz, I'm playing a game that looks like the games that I play in the arcade, if that makes any sense.
Well,
you know?
A big part of it is that it's very flashy, it's very bright, but also, and again, this is the important thing, that rock solid frame rate, especially in a racing game. The fact that Mario Kart on the Switch runs at 60 FPS and doesn't blink ever is just amazing. It truly is. You know, I told this anecdote about how when I reviewed the Switch Lite back at GX, they sent me Mario Kart. They knew I had Mario Kart, obviously. I reviewed the Switch. I definitely had Mario Kart, but they sent me, they're like, this is the game, you know. And for those of you that don't know, usually like when you get a console, especially a console revision, and the company sends you a game alongside it, especially one that is already out and has been out, that's a not so subtle way of them being like, this is the game we'd like you to show on this. This is the game that we think is going to impress your viewers. And it's very clear that Nintendo obviously holds Mario Kart 8 Deluxe in very high regard. And it's easy to see why, because it is like a showcase game. Like I said, people who don't know games look at this and they're like, wow, I want to play that. And that's something that frankly, as much as I personally love Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom far more than I love Mario Kart, because they're my kind of thing. That's the kind of thing that, you know, it's just Mario Kart is so much better than Zelda in that regard because it impresses people in a way that other games can't. Like, they just look at it, they understand it intrinsically, what it is. You know, every adult, everybody over 15 has played Mario Kart at some point in their life, and they see this one, they're like, wow, this is amazing. Like, I want this.
No, totally well said. And either way, yes, both of the above games or aforementioned games, incredibly impressive in their own ways. And but we actually do have some news to discuss, believe it or not. So I will read out the rest of the super chats that come in as we go through the show. But for now, let's turn our attention from the newest and the latest and the greatest to what this episode's name was named after, named after, which is retro games. This is something I think, Steve, you and I both wish we had known to react to, because, you know,
Yes.
I knew about the limited run presentation. I was like,
Same.
well, it's probably not going to be worth reacting to. Well, we were wrong, because holy crap, the list of announcements at this limited run presentation. And I mean, I remember when we were in the crew chat, just things kept coming in and we were pasting announcements and we're like, Tomba, like Tomba's coming back, the Jurassic Park Classic Games Collection, Clock Tower, Gex Trilogy. Like, this was a retro gamer's dream presentation, right?
It's pretty darn amazing. I'm not gonna lie.
Right.
Like, I mean, for me, is it Tomba or Tomba? I always said
Is
Tomba.
it Tomba?
I don't
I
know.
always said Tomba. Yeah, I've never played the game, but maybe this is my chance.
I think
'Cause I
it's
heard great
Tomba,
things.
and the only reason
Is
I
it
say that
Tomba?
is it's a
Okay.
Japanese game. So,
Fair enough. Yeah.
but yeah, to me, this was one of the craziest. To be fair, Google agrees with you that it's Tomba. By the way, I think.
Oh, okay. Okay.
But either way, seeing just that was one of the craziest sets of announcements. Like, the internet just kept lighting up with all these weird, obscure retro things. And our pal and former guest, Modern Vintage Gamer, is involved with most of it. Like, it appears that he has been doing a lot of the work on these games. And if you haven't seen his Shantae port, he did great on that.
Yeah, he did.
So I think, you know, he's the right person for the job here as well. But they developed something apparently called the Carbon Engine. They've ported all these games into this engine. It's almost like a general purpose retro gaming engine to help do native ports of all these old games, which I love. I don't have anything against limited run. I certainly wouldn't have expected this from them, but I do wish that their production schedules were a bit tighter from announcement to people getting the actual products, because I know, for instance, I picked up Panzer Dragoon from them, and I think I waited a year and a half to get my physical copy.
Yeah.
And I'm like, that's a long time. I'm hopeful that they're able to get these games out more quickly.
You're so right.
I will pick all of these up. Some of them I've never played. I didn't particularly love Gex, but it's so cool that they exist. Like, it's amazing. You know, Tomba, however you say it.
Apparently, according to Castcoder in our YouTube chat, it is Tomba, according to Tomba 2's English dub. So you were right.
Oh, thank you. So Tomba. Yeah, I was gonna say I've played them, and I could have sworn I heard the name Tomba said, but it's been a long time. Those were PS1 games. Yeah. But I will say the craziest thing for me is Shantae Advance.
Right, that was the other. Yeah, that was one of the two big things I wanted to bring up. But yes, Shantae Advance, Risky Revolution. They're bringing a dead game back from the brink. It's actually they're building the actual game on top of the code that originally existed for Shantae Advance.
Yeah, that to me is probably the coolest thing, because, you know, I watched the little video that Matt Bozon put out about this, where he mentions that, you know, they didn't even try to fill in the story gap that it created by not having released, because so they just went right to, what was it? Risky's Revenge. Right. And, you know, it just kind of assumed these pre-existing relationships that would have been first explained in Shantae Advance.
Right.
And they, you know, nobody really questioned it too much. So I'm really excited for this. I'm excited too that it's not like, oh, hey, we're taking this Game Boy Advance game and porting it to modern consoles. They're like, no, we're still releasing this on a Game Boy Advance cartridge. Yes, like my Game Boy Advance is right back there. I haven't had to use it for anything in years, and I am so ready to like put that thing back on the charger and play this game. Because how cool is that? Like,
it really is.
I was looking through it and I'm like, man, I still have my stuff to capture GameCube games. Like, I'm going to have to like dust off the GameCube and the Game Boy player and record this. And so I'm not the world's biggest Shantae fan, but I will buy any unfinished game that gets released. Like this story is catnip for me. Like, I love the fact that Limited Run was able to do this, like get this set up to where we're able to actually play a game that didn't get finished, that publishers didn't have interest in. And I hope that this is what they continue to do. I like the work they do currently. I like the fact that we get these like physical releases of digital only games. Cool. I'm cool with that. But I vastly prefer what they're doing now. Like, give me
Right.
original stuff, or at least ports of long dead titles
Yeah.
that weren't otherwise going to release. Like, I like that they're stepping into publishing now, and that they're seeking out kind of like holy grail games and bringing them back to modern
Yeah.
consoles. Like, uh, Gerard put out that video about how like 87% of games are unavailable.
Yeah.
And this to me is one of the best things I've seen for preservation in a long time, because these are games that I
Yep.
didn't even think the rights were out there anymore. So
Yeah, right there with you. I mean, like you, just the concept of what this is like catnip to me. But on top of that, I'm also a big Shantae fan, so I have that part of it to look forward to too. The only, and I wasn't able to find confirmation of this during the admittedly short time that I looked, but I do hope that it isn't just going to be a GBA cartridge, just so those people out there who want to play this but don't necessarily have a GBA on hand can just play it digitally. I just hope that this game, because it's a lost game, gets the widest audience possible, because it's such a cool concept, and it would be a damn shame for it to be locked to a GBA cartridge. I just hope that it's both.
it would be nice for sure. I could have sworn
Yeah,
that they said it was just
I,
GBA.
I think they did. Yeah, maybe it's like a launch thing. It'll be, for a launch period, it'll be like a GBA cartridge exclusive, and then later on they'll do like a digital version just
Yeah,
to
you
kind of
know
add
what?
to the novelty of it.
In the trailer, they don't seem to have ports listed. I'm gonna say that
Hmm.
this is probably
Yeah,
GBA only.
I think it is too, based on what I saw. But I kind of feel like it's almost inevitable that eventually they'll announce a digital port, at least for Switch. But I don't. It just seems so weird to go to the trouble to resurrect this almost, this until now dead game, but only let people who have GBAs on hand play it.
Yeah,
So I
it is
feel like
only GBA.
eventually,
I just found their press
yeah,
release.
that's
So
what I
so it is
thought.
strictly
Yeah,
GBA for now. I'll admit I think it's cool, but I do hope that this is like a timed exclusive, which is a weird
yeah,
thing to say about a game coming out in 2024 for the Game Boy Advance.
right,
But I mean,
exactly.
there are things. Oh, looks like Azran has a tweet linked about it, so maybe they've expanded on that beyond the
Let's
press
see.
release.
Oh, only announced it for GBA at this time. That seems so obvious to me that eventually a digital port's coming.
Yeah, I think it's more that they. I mean, to be fair, it hits way different when it's a GBA game, right?
Totally. Yeah. Yeah. Well, the other thing I wanted to highlight was actually something that our friend RecBCQ just super chatted about for $5. Thank you very much. And they said, I can't fathom that there's a game out there that's paying homage to the freaking CDI. And yes, that was the other thing I really wanted to highlight about this. And that is RZ or Artset, the Jewel of Faramore, which seems to be marrying the Zelda CDI style of just cheesy, awful cutscenes to what could actually be a pretty good game, maybe even a great one. The gameplay footage so far looks pretty cool, but talk about a novelty. I never imagined, and it seems so obvious in hindsight, but I never imagined we'd get a game with cutscenes intentionally inspired by the Zelda CDI games.
Yeah, I've seen a little bit of it. I still need to see the trailer for that because I didn't
Oh,
watch the
please
whole
do.
limited run thing yet. But hopefully I'll pull that in eventually. But
Well, we should watch it during our post show today.
yeah, during the post
With
show we
our
can pull that up.
Yeah. By the way, if you want to know what that is, patreon.com/GVGaming. Check out the live audience tier for just $5 a month. But with that said, yes, Artset, the Jewel of Faramore, it is a Zelda CDI inspired, the cutscenes are inspired by that, but with what seems to be a pretty legitimate game, and not obviously a terrible game like the actual gameplay segments of the CDI Zelda games were. So it is a really fascinating thing that they're working on. And this list just continues to blow. I mean, we're getting like a remastered Disney Gargoyles. The hell?
Right?
Like, where did that come from? I'm still waiting on Chippendale. Like, DuckTales remaster was great. Still waiting on Chippendale, but we're getting Gargoyles. Limited run, if you're watching, and I know you are, because why wouldn't you be? Please give us a Soul Blazer trilogy collection. I want Soul Blazer, Illusion of Gaia, and Terranigma on modern platforms, physical, digital, I don't care. Just please make it happen. Because if you can make this miracle list happen, I know you can make that happen. So please, if you're watching, which you are, please, please make it happen. All right. Well, that was pretty much, I mean, obviously the linchpin of this week's show was this crazy list of incredible retro games. But also, let's mention something else about a retro style game that I think both of us are quite looking forward to. And that, of course, is Sea of Stars, which is coming out next month. And it is a turn-based RPG, 2D pixel art overhead view style, inspired by the likes of Chrono Trigger, Final Fantasy VI, and, as I just mentioned, Illusion of Gaia, which is like, you could not possibly pitch a game that is more right up my alley, that appeals to all of my sensibilities. And of course, Steve, you and I share our favorite game of all time, which is Chrono Trigger. And so I feel like we're, am I right in saying that you're kind of looking forward to this?
Yeah. I think the price is a bit high at $35.
Yeah,
I feel
what I
like
was going to
that's a big
say.
ask for an indie
Yeah,
RPG in this day and age. But it is also a Game Pass game. And,
right.
I kind of, I always say Game Pass is the best deal in gaming. This just further underlines it. I worry that they're aiming a little too high, but I also get that if it's anywhere lengthwise on the level of Chrono Trigger, that's a big game. That's a very large indie game, and most indie games are not that long.
Right.
So yeah, I think that that's a I think it's a decent price. I think that it's going to turn off a lot of customers who don't know exactly what they're looking at, though. And I worry about its success for that reason.
That is exactly how I feel, and kind of what I was going to say. Like, I get it. Indie studios, they need to be solvent. I mean, all studios do, but indie studios have it rough because they need to keep existing. They need to make back that revenue, of course. And they got Yasunori Mitsuda, the composer of Chrono Trigger, as a guest composer. I'm sure he didn't come cheap, but at the same time, I do worry that they're limiting their potential audience here with a $34.99 price. And, for people like us who know what it is and we're like so into what it is, okay, exactly. I'm fine paying $35, no question. And for those who have an Xbox, you can play it on Game Pass, and that's great. But I agree with you. I think 35 is a little bit aggressive for, and I don't think indies should be perceived to be, they should always be cheaper than, non-indie games. I don't like that perception. But it is the perception, regardless of what I want. That is what it is. That's the reality.
Well, it's like it's the same way that if this game were released on the App Store for iPhone versus console, nobody would pay over $10. Nobody, just because of the economy that you're jumping into. But I mean, also it's worth noting that if you have a PC, and I think most people do have a PC capable of running an indie pixel art game, it's also Game Pass for PC, which is a pretty great deal.
It is. So I really do hope this game does well, because at least from the demo that they released a few months back, it's looking really sharp. It's looking to really deliver on the inspirations that it claims to have. I just don't want people to skip on it who otherwise might be into it because of the price, and that is that's a high price for what this game is perceived to be if you're not part of that fan base. So all the best to them. They are getting a making of documentary as well that's coming via the Escapist, which is kind of cool. So it's great that they're able to get to drum this up enough to get a making of doc about it. So we'll see how that goes. But yeah, Sea of Stars coming out next month, and I'm trying so hard to finish FF16 before that comes out, because once Sea of Stars hits, I gotta have that be my sole focus, at least for a while. So, good times on that. And let's see. I unfortunately linked the wrong thing here in our news doc, but you and I obviously both love video games to death, obviously do. Fighting games to death. Yes. And so the final EVO 2023 tournament registration numbers have come in, and they are massive. They're for EVO, they're historic. And Street Fighter 6 in particular is just absolutely blasting out of the gate in terms of its registration numbers. And I'm looking through our news doc now to find out where those are, because I lost them. But here we go. So Street Fighter 6, these are final registration numbers. Over 7,000 entrants, 7,061 for Street Fighter 6. Over 2,400, almost 2,500 for Guilty Gear Strive, almost 1,600 for Tekken 7. Almost 1,400 for Ultimate MVC3. Like, this is going to be the biggest EVO ever, and I so wish you could be there with me, man.
Yeah, it would be nice. I've got a trip to the Grand Canyon coming up around that time, though.
I mean, that's not that far from Vegas. I'm just saying.
It's fair. That's fair.
Just
We'll
saying.
see. I don't know though. I can't even beat Vash. No offense, Vash, but if I can't beat you, I'm not going to win Street Fighter 6 is what I'm saying.
Right.
I'm not going to take the $1 million home.
I think it's particularly impressive that almost 1,600 people signed up for Tekken 7, which it's easy to forget how old that game actually is, but that it's still pulling that much of a competitive scene. And this, this will ostensibly be the last year for Tekken 7 and Mortal Kombat 11 Ultimate. Next year, we're going to see Mortal Kombat 1 and Tekken 8, and I'm sure those numbers will be going crazy out of the gate. But man, Street Fighter 6 has been out for barely a month and over 7,000 people. That's just wild to me. And of course, they deserve it. It's a great game. And man, I wish you could be there with me for the first ever Street Fighter 6 tournament at EVO, because I know you and I both know how unbelievably hyped that's going to be.
Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. I'm going to watch it if I can. I may be in a hotel room at the Grand Canyon, but I'll be watching the finals for sure. I think that it is so much better of a game to watch others play than 5 was. And so I'm really excited to see what, actual pro players are going to do with these characters, because I've run into some people online that are just beastly, and there's certainly, I'm not in the realm of the gods of Street Fighter. I'm able to brush up against it every now and then and be humbled very quickly. But certainly not anywhere near the level of even the worst pro player. So
right. Same.
I'm
obviously
very, very excited to see what high level competitive Street Fighter 6 looks like on the world's biggest stage.
Yeah, absolutely. And I've been watching a few matches on YouTube. Like I watched a Daigo versus Tokido match a couple of days ago, and obviously that was just like, how do these people do what they're doing on screen? This is insane. And we're just going to get hours and hours of that at EVO. And one of these days, man, you got to go with me. One of these years,
absolutely. I would love to go. I just have to make the time.
Yeah, for sure. All right, one more thing I want to get your thoughts on, man. And this is obviously, as we know, games based on Marvel characters, especially recent, have had a bit of a checkered history. The less said about the Avengers, the better. And of course, unfortunately, Guardians of the Galaxy, I think, kind of suffered from the dark cloud cast over the Avengers, because if you sat down and played it, it was actually really good with a particularly great story and voice cast. So now we've come to learn that a Cliffhanger Games, which is one of EA's subsidiaries, one of their newest subsidiaries based in Seattle, they're working on a single-player, third-person action-adventure Black Panther game. And just on the face of it, I feel like the potential is massive here. I would love to play as Black Panther in his own original adventure. How are you feeling about this? Do you think there's any hope here? Do you think it's just going to be Do you think there's maybe a possibility that this could turn out to be as cool as the potential implies here?
No.
I
don't mean to be a downer, but I'm just trying to be honest. Like, I don't trust EA to make most things good.
Same.
They were able to fuck up Star Wars, and that to me is easy video game material. That being said, I will say they did good with Jedi Survivor, so there is that.
That's true
but they,
too.
Battlefront to me was just endlessly boring, despite being one of the most visually impressive games I had ever seen up to that point. EA, I don't trust. I've never seen any studio within EA do what, let's just say, Insomniac can do with Spider-Man.
Totally agree.
And I think that it's such a rare skill set to find in a studio, to be able to impart the feeling of kinesis and superpower and badassery that you need to make a superhero game work correctly. Like, I would say Rocksteady managed to do it fairly well. But even by today's standards, like those Batman Arkham games, they feel muddy and slow. Whereas Spider-Man, I honestly, like, if it's not Insomniac, like, I'm not trusting it till I see people play it. So, like, I'm still excited to see more about Wolverine, right? Like, that's probably the next Marvel game that's really big on the horizon for me. Once Spider-Man 2 is out the door in just 2 months, god damn. Then I'll start looking for info on Wolverine. I think Black Panther, the character, absolutely has tons of potential to make a really cool game. I just don't know I don't know enough about this studio to be able to say, but what I can say is EA has never made a good superhero game.
Yeah.
And as much as I think they did fairly well with Star Wars it's not the same skill set, right? Like
No, it's not
Jedi
quite the same thing.
are slow. And in this game in particular, in Jedi Survivor, they're more like plotting and tactical with how they fight. It's not zipping through the air at high speeds or running along the ground at superhuman speeds. You're not fighting mobs and mobs of bad guys at the same time. I think that's a very special skill set that comes from being able to understand the character and capture their essence very well. And I'm just not sure that that's going to be something we're going to get from an EA studio. But I'd love to be wrong, because I want a Black Panther game that kicks ass. I want a really good Black Panther game.
Big same.
I think he's a compelling hero. I think that he could deliver something really fun and unique within the superhero space, because he's not quite like Spider-Man. He's not quite like Wolverine. He's his own unique guy. And I think that you could do something really cool with that. God, it's going to be hard, though, because I think Chadwick Boseman played him so well, and he's irreplaceable as the character. And I don't know. And if one thing has proven itself, it's that when you take a character who has like an instantly recognizable face in the MCU and you just swap it, the results aren't good. Sorry, Avengers.
But... No, it's true. But what's funny though is you're right, and I completely agree with you. When you do that, that kind of appearance swapping, it doesn't quite work. But at the same time, it did work for Guardians once people actually gave it a chance. That's what's interesting. Yeah, and I mean, and Peter Quill in the game looks so different from Chris Pratt.
That's true. I'll give you that. I think what happened, the issue I had with Avengers is they very clearly tried to replicate the movies.
Totally.
It felt like off-brand MCU.
Yeah. That's so true. Azran asks in our live audience chat, asking who's to say they won't use the new Black Panther, obviously meaning Shuri from Black Panther Wakanda Forever. But they did already say this is going to be a completely original story for Black Panther. And I feel like the more publicly, generally well-known Black Panther is T'Challa over Shuri, right? Unless you're like a giant comics fan, I feel like most people are gonna just naturally relate Black Panther to T'Challa. So I'm gonna go out on a limb and just kind of assume that we're talking about T'Challa here and not Shuri. But yeah, I mean, I kind of figured that you would be landing where I am on this. EA can't be trusted to make a good superhero game. So as much as the potential is there, I don't necessarily expect them to deliver on it. Not at all, really. I want them to. Cliffhanger games, they're pretty untested as a studio from what I understand, so we don't really know what they're capable of. I hope they do it right. But on that similar note, I'm still waiting to find out who is developing that TMNT Last Ronin game, because talk about potential.
Right.
If you know that comic, if you know that story, the potential for a Last Ronin 3D action or like third-person action adventure game is mind-blowingly off the charts. But we don't know who's making it, and I want that potential to be realized, both for that and for Black Panther. So we'll see how it goes, but it's still obviously very early in development, so it's going to be years before this thing coalesces into something we can really talk about and dissect. So yeah, we'll see how it goes. Let's go ahead and read out a few more super chats before we move on to our patron topics for the week. And let's see here. So first, we've got Grantles with $5. Thank you so much. I can't believe we live in a timeline where Gex is back and there's a modern port of Plumbers Don't Wear Ties. You're totally right. Not only Gex, but Tomba and a Zelda CDI-inspired game. It's wild. This is quite a timeline. It is one of the timelines of all time. That I'll say that much. Next up, $10 from Sean Davis. Thank you so much. Any movies you guys are looking forward to for the rest of the year? I'm interested in seeing The Last Voyage of the Demeter when that comes out. It's based off a chapter of Dracula and looks great. I'm not going to lie and say I've heard of that. That sounds pretty cool. Personally, I'm really excited for, and it's basically out now, Mission Impossible Dead Reckoning Part 1. I love the MI series. Tom Cruise never seems to age. That man is ageless, I swear to God. So I'm pretty excited about that. I'm looking forward to the Marvels for sure. And there are a couple of movies that are out now that I want to see that I haven't, like Elemental. That looks great. I can't wait to see that. I only saw Across the Spider-Verse a few days ago because I've just been too busy. My wife and I tried to go see it like 10 times, and life got in the way every single time. So I only just now saw Across the Spider-Verse, and it was, my expectations were sky high, and they were still shattered. So go see it if you haven't. I'm sure you all have. Steve, maybe you haven't though, because I know you're obviously a very, very busy day job
Believe it or
worker,
not, I saw
parent.
Across the Spider-Verse like the night it came
Oh,
out.
did you?
Yeah,
So you know how amazing it is.
it's so good. Well, so for me, Spider-Man 2099 is like my favorite Spider-Man variant. So when I found out he was heavily featured in the movie, I was like, I gotta go. And they did my boy dirty, first off. But
Oh, they did?
well, I have questions, and maybe it's part of like the extended Spider-Man 2099 canon. Maybe there's stuff I don't know. And I don't think this is spoilery because it's in a trailer. But if you just want to know nothing about the movie and you somehow haven't seen any trailers for it, they make a weird implication that maybe he's a vampire. And
right, they do. They do.
I'm so confused by that because if you know the character from the comics, he's not a vampire.
Right, right.
You know, so and I do think it kind of sucks. You know, like he's also I was hoping that they wouldn't do this thing that I kind of don't love, in that the two most well-known biracial Spider-Men are fighting each other. Like, could they not? Could they pick a different one?
Sure. Yeah.
I mean, there's thousands, but either way, I love Spidey 2099. I loved that movie. I agree with you. Such an amazing film. I don't get out to see movies often, so I'm going to give old choices too, though. Cocaine Bear, I want to see.
I still want to see that funny. Too. Yeah.
Yeah, same. I really want to see Cocaine Bear. I bet it's pretty funny. Yeah. I love a good comedy, especially when it's like a dark comedy.
Yeah.
Gosh, I already saw Guardians Volume 3. That was fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Hard to believe that was even a 2023 movie. Like, I'm looking at a list now just to see. Yeah, you know, I'm just gonna stick with Cocaine Bear because that's the one that I haven't seen that I want to see, and hopefully I'll get to it before the end of the year.
Sure. Mito Green in our live audience chat mentioned Blue Beetle, and yeah, you know what? I'm not usually into the DCEU, but Blue Beetle looks great, and it features one of the main actors from Cobra Kai, which that's an instant sell for me because you all know how much I love Cobra Kai. So there's that. I think Barbie looks pretty cool. I might wait for it to go streaming, but I definitely want to see it. I'm certainly interested. I've seen some of you saying Oppenheimer, and look, it's Chris Nolan. Yes, it's almost certainly going to be amazing. He's had a few duds here and there. I didn't like Tenet much. Oppenheimer's probably going to be great, but given the world we live in right now, I just don't know that I need to go see a movie about nuclear war and the threat of it, just because of the world we already live in daily. So I just don't know that I need that in my life right now. So I feel like it's going to be great, but I might wait a little bit to see it. You know,
I do want to see Asteroid City, which is a new Wes Anderson film.
Right, I heard about that.
I don't know anything about it, but I absolutely love the way his cinematography and his use of color in his films. Like they seem so surreal. So that'll be a treat to watch.
For sure. And Jacomon mentioned Nimona. Yeah, I saw some reviews about that. It looks so cool. I want to see that. And then I'm also kicking myself because I can't believe I didn't think about this. Toon J and Jacomon both mentioned TMNT Mutant Mayhem, and you know what? When the first trailer dropped, I wasn't into it, but then the next trailer came out and it totally turned me around. And I'm like, I was always going to see it no matter what, but now I think it looks legitimately cool, and I'm so excited to see that next month. I think it looks great. For sure. And I assume you want to see it too, Steve?
Yes, I do. Oh, dude, yeah.
Yeah.
I honestly was on board with that from the first trailer.
Yeah.
I thought it was interesting to see that Seth Rogen is tied to it, but
yeah, eternal teenager Seth Rogen.
Yeah, I'm good with that. I'm excited to check that out.
Cool. Well, thank you for that really fun topic, Sean, and for the $10. Thank you so much. Also, $10 from Goron Amber. It's been a while. Thank you so much, Amber.
Hi.
Haven't made it to one of these in a long while. Been working long hospital hours and helping ER and urgent care patients. Good to see y'all live again. Well, it's good to see you
likewise.
Live again. And thank you so much for all the work you're doing on the front lines of medicine and taking care of people and their health, because that's so important. So thank you so much for all your hard work helping people. And we're so glad you're here live again. It's been so long. ToonJ723, oh man, putting us on the spot with $2. Thank you. Asking us to make up a modern Gex quote.
Ugh. I've not played enough Gex to do this. I
haven't
know what
either.
He sounds like.
I'm just gonna. I mean, I feel like with his, with that kind of annoying smirk that he always has, I feel like he'd just say something that he thinks is cool, but really isn't. So something like a catchphrase like Gexalicious or Gextastic or something like that. But I've never played Gex, so Gexalicious, I kind of like.
I don't actually know. Like, hey, it's me, I'm fucking Gex. Check me out.
I'm gonna stick with Gexalicious. I like that. He looks like the kind of guy who would say something like that.
Probably. he
Oh
probably
my
has
God,
actual
man.
energy.
That's what I'm saying. I need a actual energy. That we can't do better than that. We got to move on because that is just never going to be taught. Period. The actual energy. There you go. All right. Next up, Rec BCQ. Sorry, with $5 more. Thank you so much, Rec. I can't fathom that there is a game out there
Oh, we
that's
read
paying
that one
homage.
out.
Oh, yeah, that was one that I read at the time. Sorry about that. Next up, Kaiser the Fighter with $5. Thank you so much. If Daisy was in the Super Mario Brothers movie sequel, what voice acting would be a better fit for Daisy? Me personally, Tara Strong would be an awesome fit for the role. You kind of already said it. I think she'd be great.
I think Tara Strong would be good.
I'm trying to think of someone I think could be like
I'm gonna
better.
say that I would want Scarlett Johansson. She has like a
Really?
huskier voice, like kind of a
Hmm.
deeper. She could do a tomboy voice very well.
I almost feel like she's a little bit too like her voice is a little bit too husky though for because Daisy's very in the games at least she's very high energy hi I'm Daisy so I don't
Yeah, but I think that if we did like a movie, like I'm thinking Mario movie. Sorry, I should be clear about that. And he does say movie sequel, so like
right
I don't think you're gonna get. I think that Anya Taylor-Joy is similarly like down in her register compared to the Peach voice that we're used to, which is like
that's
somebody
also true
intentionally going very high.
yeah
So I think to kind of keep the dissonance of sorts between them, you'd need somebody who even had a deeper, more husky sounding voice.
that's true
I think Scarlett Johansson could pull it off. I think she'd be a good Daisy. I don't know.
Mhm.
But I agree Tara Strong would be fantastic, but I don't know why I can't not picture her doing Buttercup. She didn't even do
yeah
Buttercup, did she? I don't know.
I can't remember
She
which
didn't
one
do all the
she
Powerpuff Girls. She did
no
Bubbles
she
for sure.
didn't well she was Bubbles right
Maybe that's
Uh,
Buttercup
yeah
voice actor. Let's see, who was
oh
it?
you know what that's a good one Jaden Buck I want Daisy to be voiced by Kristen Wiig that's a good one
Ooh, that
I could
is a
see
good
that
one.
that's a good
E.G.
one and
Daily did Buttercup. I just
oh,
assume
okay
I just associate
yeah
Tara Strong with like every cartoon character.
right right yeah I think those are I mean Tara Strong yeah I completely agree Kristen Wiig that's a great one and you make a good point Steve the Peach we see in the movie has a much lower register than the Peach we see in the game so ScarJo could be a good fit I'm struggling to think of anyone else in the moment that I think would be like a
Yeah,
perfect
the
fit
the
for
other
her
part that I think, and this part sucks, but the another part reason I went with somebody recognizable from Hollywood is because they clearly did that for all the characters in the first movie.
yeah absolutely which they're going to do again for
Yeah,
sure
and any
um
new primary character is going to be like A-list
yeah
talent, which is both good and bad. I mean, but Nintendo's not going to be like, we made $1 billion with the first movie. Now let's shake up the voice cast.
and what's funny is Jason Ramirez in our YouTube chat says Gray Delisle. I think that's a great idea, but a great idea. But at the same time, she's not a recognizable name in Hollywood, so I don't think they go with her. So yeah, unfortunately, I don't think that would happen. Ariana Grande says Tommy Theonoff's archives. I feel like people would riot if they did that. But on the along the lines of people who do not have that Hollywood name recognizability, Colleen O'Shaughnessy, who does Tails, I think that she could, manipulate the Tails voice she does into a pretty good Daisy. Personally,
Yeah,
I
I could
think
see
she could
that.
probably nail that. Yeah. So yeah, she kind of has that natural energy to her voice when she plays Tails, and I feel like she could do a pretty good
Yeah,
Daisy. So, and hey, she didn't need to have name recognition to be Tails in the Sonic movies. So you never know. You never know.
fair.
Thank you so much for that. That was a fun topic to discuss, Kaiser. And then one more for now, and then we'll move on to our patron topics. So Disney Duckin is back yet again with $5. Thank you so much. Asking, do you think Disney would allow for Wolverine and or Deadpool to be guests for Mortal Kombat 1?
Nope,
No,
not at
this is
all.
Disney we're talking about.
I mean,
Yeah,
it's not just that, but WB and NetherRealm are also cozied up to DC. They make
yeah,
the Injustice series of fighting games,
right.
so I just don't see them doing it based solely on that, but also just the letting their characters kill people.
Yeah, and it's too bad too because like I feel like Deadpool actually would be a really good fit
Yep.
for that. Wolverine also, but not as much. But Deadpool, I feel like would be a perfect guest character for Mortal Kombat 1. But yeah, no, I agree with you, Steve. I don't think it's going to happen.
Yeah,
All
and
right.
to address Dad Alpha Lion, Scorpion was an Injustice one, but again, that is a Mortal Kombat character crossing over with DC. So that's a thing
Exactly.
that has happened. And they had MK versus DC, which was terrible. I think
Yeah.
I just see for those reasons that Mortal Kombat and DC have been so closely aligned that they're not going to let Marvel characters in for fear of another likely DC collab.
Right. Yeah. No, I completely agree. All right. Well, that's it for Super Chats for now. I will read out the rest once we get to the end of the show. But for now, it is time for our weekly Patreon topics. And as a reminder, we do, of course, have a Patreon, patreon.com/GVGaming. And if you decide to support us at the producer tier or above, and the producer tier is just $10 a month, among other perks, you can suggest topics every week on GVGcast, like the ones we are about to discuss right now. And Steve, let's go ahead and start with you, man.
Yeah, so my topic is a little offbeat. Comes from Wataniac. Wataniac wrote, favorite subject in school. Electives count too. Doesn't have to be one of the standard ones. And I thought this was fun because we're always talking about games and gaming adjacent things, and
Yeah.
school is decidedly not that.
That is true.
Yeah, so, and Wataniac and I are pretty close in age, I believe. So, um, I I had a deeply unpopular favorite class in high school.
Oh, okay.
I loved taking foreign languages. I loved German, but my favorite class was actually home ec. And in the
Oh,
90s, being a boy and being super into home ec is a recipe for
oh,
disaster.
yeah, unfortunately.
So I was, my mom is actually like a well-trained baker. And so, my mom and I, during my teenage years, as teenagers are wont to do with their moms, we weren't super close. I tried to put some distance in that relationship between the
Uh-huh.
ages of like 14 and 17. Um, but I knew that to get a good grade in home ec, I would have to get advice from my mom. And I genuinely enjoyed the process of just making food. And it's something that has stuck with me through my whole life. Like, I mean, I don't have a lot of time for stuff, and I'm certainly lazy, so I don't cook nearly as much as I'd like to. But when I do actually get in the kitchen and like try to make a recipe that I've never made before, I have a hell of a lot of fun. And I watch a lot of like cooking videos when I'm not working on gaming stuff. Like it's
Mm.
probably my number one current hobby outside of gaming and stuff related to making videos. Like I
Oh,
like
cool.
cameras, I like audio stuff, but outside of all that, I would say cooking is like my favorite thing.
Well, I did not know that. I learned something new today. I love baking myself. I've
Yeah.
never been a big cook, but I know a lot of my mom's like recipes for the holidays, like various pies and fudge and stuff. So I do love baking. But yeah, I never knew that. That's so cool. For me, I guess mine was a little bit more offbeat too, which was my favorite subject in school was music. And of course, that's unfortunately kind of not something you see very often anymore. Music programs are getting cut left and right in schools, which I don't think should be the case. But I had an amazing music teacher. Fun fact: back in middle school, I played the xylophone in a music club, and I
Oh,
loved it.
nice.
I really like one of my biggest regrets these days is that I didn't pursue music more. I definitely nurse, vague dreams of maybe doing some DJing someday. I just love music, and my dad raised me to really listen with a critical ear to music. I've talked to our patron Azran about that, that they know exactly what I'm talking about. And I just love music. And so music class was probably my favorite in middle school. I also enjoyed English class enough because I'll tell you what, I hate math. I never have been a math guy, hated math. But English, I've always had a way with words. I've always been, a particularly good writer, I think. I've just always been well spoken and well written. And I definitely got that compared to how crappy I am at math or was. I pretty much noped out after like fractions. Like I was like, you know what? I don't know about this algebra stuff. I know I'm kidding. Of course, I did fine in algebra, but I hated every single second of it. And after algebra, I'm like, nah, I'm done. Screw this. I hate this. I'm not ever going to be a mathematician. And I wasn't big on science either. But yeah, English and music were my favorite subjects in school, with a particular preference for music class. I had the coolest music teacher and the coolest English
Nice.
teacher, really. So yeah, and of course, recess and lunch were also high up there as subjects I love in school. But yeah, it's got to be music and English for me. So yeah, I think that was a fun offbeat topic, like you said, the one that we don't really usually discuss. So anything else you want to say on that, Steve?
I shout out to my German teacher, Herr Haas. Probably my
Yeah.
favorite class of all time, like being in the class, but not my favorite subject, if that makes sense. Like he had
Nice.
sofas and he had a coffee machine, and if you brought your own cup, he'd let you get coffee in his class.
That's I love that's
Dope
so
ass
cool.
teacher. Made school a lot
That's
of fun.
Well, on that note, I should give a quick shout out to my English teacher in middle school, Jennifer Sinkler, who was just the best damn teacher I could have ever asked for. She was just the most wonderful. I say was, she's still alive, but she is just the most wonderful woman, and so I got to give her a good shout out. All right, well, thank you for that, Wataniac. And next up, my topic for the week is from Akil P. So thank you, Akil. And you asked us, what are some of your favorite one-liners and memorable quotes from a video game? And I mean, God, there are so many. I have to probably start with one of the best lines ever from Devil May Cry, which was, "I should have been the one to fill your dark soul with light." And his voice cracks at the end, and it's when he says light, his voice cracks. That's one of my favorites. I mean, there's so many obvious ones, right? Like, the whole opening of Symphony of the Night. What is a man? A miserable pile of secrets. Stuff like that. There are, plenty from Mega Man that you could talk about. I do love when my namesake in Mega Man ZX Advent, Ash with an E, she's always talking about booty. They're obviously talking about treasure, but the way she says booty, she kind of enunciates the B, and she's like, "We got to track down that booty." It always cracks me up because of the way she just really emphasizes the booty. And so those are some just off the top of my head. Of course, Bolt Mouse X, the Iris, the whole Iris scene. Iris, no, there's no reason for me to go on. What am I fighting for? And the Serbots, Miss Tron. Like, there's so many. Dr. Wily for Mega Man 8. I could go on forever. There's so many good ones. But I'm definitely hogging the mic here. Steve, do you have any that come to mind for you?
I'm shocked it didn't come up. But with how much we talked about it in the past year, I'm especially surprised.
Uh-huh.
But just the Leon Kennedy's whole array of dad jokes. But where's everyone going? Bingo is probably my favorite because it's just the
so
dumbest
good.
shit to say in that particular situation.
It's so good.
And
yeah, I love that.
It's like he's so full of just stupid dad jokes. Like it takes you so far out of what's going on that it loops around to being funny.
Yeah. No, that's so true. And of course, I mean, if we've got, I don't even know how I didn't mention this to begin with. Sonic. There's so many. Oh, geesh. I don't think I've ever heard anyone say geesh instead of geez, but there's that. Electric Video Gamer says, time to crack that Eggman wide open. Yeah, let's party. I mean, Sonic is just an absolute goldmine of quotes. And going back to Symphony of the Night for a second, everybody talks about the opening, which is obviously iconic. But I love the ending too, because when Dracula is like, after you defeated him and he's dying, he's like, it's so over the top and cheesy. He's like, "Farewell, my son," and then Alucard's like, "Farewell, father. Believe it or not, I will miss you." And it's just so badly delivered, but it's also so good at the same time. You know me, I love bad voice acting in movies and stuff. The House of the Dead 2, basically everything from that game is just gold. If you haven't heard the voice acting in House of the Dead 2, and I mean acting very loosely, please go check it out. It is unbelievable how bad it is, but it's just so fun to listen to. No copyright law in the universe is going to stop me. That's another good one. Oh, how could I forget? Shadow, where's that damn fourth Chaos Emerald?
I have to bring it back to like a mimetic one. Old meme though. The pretty much every line in OG Resident Evil, just because of how stilted and terrible the delivery is, like from everyone across the board. But who is it? I think it's when Barry gives Jill the lockpick, and he's like, "And Jill, a lockpick." I don't remember how it goes, but like he's pauses for like 5 seconds in between every word.
Oh, it's so bad.
The master of unlocking. I'm like, who talks like this?
Jill, don't open that door. And I don't remember who it is, but one of the side characters goes like, "It's a monster," and it's like really, really bad. There's so many good ones. Azran, I'm really feeling it. Basically everything from Xenoblade. Pick a Xenoblade game. There's something. It's run time. Anything. I can't go into Star Fox 64, guys, because if I do, we will be here for like another hour just quoting Star Fox 64 lines. So you are right, but I cannot let myself go into Star Fox 64 territory because there are too many great one-liners in that game. So yeah, it's just there's so many. There's so many. Any others that you want to mention, Steve?
No, I can't. Like you said, we could be here all night, but
Yeah.
yeah, those are some pretty good. Like anything from the '90s. Like if a game had voice acting in the '90s, it was quotable.
Yeah. Oh, for sure. I mean, and we got Metal Gear Solid. Hera was talking about, and there are just a billion quotes from Metal Gear Solid. Oh, you must have been a real thrill in the muktuk eating contest. Like, just what? Like, it's so good. So anyway, we could do this forever. Thank you so much, Akil, for that super fun topic. We really appreciate it. And then we have another bonus topic this week, and that comes from Ryan Hanley. And this is not one that I think we'll spend too much time on, which is why we decided to include it as kind of a fun bonus. So Ryan asks, is Squeaky Clean Sprint Nintendo's way of including Mario Kart Home Circuit and perhaps legitimizing it as a true Mario Kart game? What say you, Steve?
No. And I say this as somebody who reviewed Home Circuit. And to be clear, I don't think that Home Circuit is a bad game. I think it's actually really cool. Do I think it's thin? Yes. Because there's only so much fun you can get out of like driving remote controlled Mario Karts around your house before you get tired. Like just imagine having to set up and tear down every course during a Grand Prix. But I think that this is more whimsical in nature. It's just meant to be like a fun, what if we took, what was the other one? Ribbon Raceway, I think? Or
Ribbon Road.
Ribbon Road. I think it's just Nintendo has clearly had this idea of like, what if Mario Kart existed in a real world setting and it was just super tiny toys, and Nintendo likes this idea of like the characters in their games being toys. That's like the premise of the original Smash Bros, like kids playing with toys. And so I think there's something whimsical about the idea of these characters that we know and love and have kind of turned into real people in our minds to a degree, being these little smart toys. And yeah, I think it's just a really fun idea, and it's one that appeals to people like on some kind of visceral level. Like you just appreciate it for what it is. So I don't think it's a nod to Home Circuit at all. I think it'd be kind of weird if they did a take on Home Circuit in Mario Kart.
It would, right?
You'd need some stuff from like a more traditional home, right? Like a more realistic take on Squeaky Clean Sprint, which I think would be boring, to be honest. That's what Home Circuit's missing, is that you can't do any of the cool whimsical stuff like volcanoes and barrels that you can blast out of because it's tethered to the real world, and the real world isn't that neat.
You know what, though? At the same time, I find myself, and I agree with you in general, I don't think that was Nintendo's thought process at all. I think their thought process was, hey, you know what we haven't done? It would be really cool? A course in a bathroom. Let's do it. I don't think they even had any thought about Home Circuit whatsoever when designing that course. But at the same time, I do find myself thinking about the living room stage in Smash. And I'm thinking about, like, how cool it would be if you took the living room stage and turned it into a Mario Kart course. And, you'd have hazards like a dog and a cat running through the scene and, cool, the TV that you can see playing, I don't know, something from the Super Mario Brothers Super Show. I don't know. But I feel like there is a potential for like kind of a cool real life living room house course where you're like, driving underneath sofas and avoiding chair legs and dogs. And I don't know. I think there's maybe something there.
I think it could be neat. I think you would still need that certain level of Mario Kart whimsy, though. Like maybe driving up like a chain of blocks to hop onto the kitchen table, or
right,
something like that you couldn't do with real toys, but you could do if you kind of bent the rules of reality a little bit.
Right. Definitely, I agree. So yeah, just a fun topic to discuss. And now I kind of do want that living room course. I'm not going to lie. I think that would be cool. But yeah, I don't think Home Circuit figured into Squeaky Clean Sprint whatsoever. But I would like to someday try Home Circuit. I never got to, but I think it seemed. I don't know if my apartment's big enough.
I will bring it over for you to try. I've got 2 carts and a dream.
Do you think our apartment's big enough though?
Yeah. Because if you get too big, then you lose connection with the. With the carts themselves. And when I reviewed it, I had to stay confined to one room in my house at the time, because if I went too far into another room, they'd just disconnect.
Fair enough. Fair enough. And I guarantee you, by the way, that somebody's going to clip if you get too big and just cut it off there. That's what they're that's what they're gonna do. All right. Well, thank you everyone for those awesome topics. We really appreciate it. Keep those amazing topic ideas coming. And yeah, we really appreciate you. All right. So it is almost time for the end of the show, but we do have several more super chats to read out. You all are so incredibly generous. Thank you. All right. First off, Mighty Invincible with $10. Thank you so much. I was definitely curious how a Spider-Man 2099 fan would feel about his portrayal, but I think the vampire thing was just Gwen simplifying the description. He does legitimately have paralyzing venom fangs, though.
Oh, okay. I didn't remember that. Which is good to know, because like I said, I think that was something that happened after I stopped reading the 2099 series. I got as far as Venom 2099, and I was like, that's cool, but then they started pairing them up with like Ghost Rider 2099 and Thor 2099. I was like, okay, I can't follow a whole other like continuity. But it was, I think Spidey 2099, I still don't like that they did him dirty in terms of making him like the main villain. Like, you could have picked any other Spider-Man, but you chose my favorite one, and that stings.
Yeah, fair enough. Fair enough. Well, thank you. I actually didn't know that stuff about Spider-Man 2099, so thank you, Steve and Mighty Invincible. Appreciate that. All right, this next one is particularly cool for me. I had not. This is so cool. This came in during the show, but Chan John Nguyen with $2. I hope I said that right. I apologize if I didn't. Saying, congrats, Ash. You got the role of Kaifun for Macross. And yeah, so what that means is that I have been auditioning for a fan dub for the PS1 game Macross Do You Remember Love?
Oh, nice.
It's like I'm auditioned for this fan dub, and I got the role of Kaifun. I just found it out during the show, and I'm so excited.
Nice, congrats.
Thank you. I think John's working on it too, so we're going to be working on it together, I believe. And as all of you know, I'm trying to get a kind of a voice acting career, voiceover career off the ground. And this is such a cool thing to find out live during the show. I'm so excited. Thank you so much for the opportunity, Sean. I'm so excited to do this. Thank you so much. This is very validating for me, and I get to find out live. That's so cool. Thank you so much. All right. Next up, we've got a pair of super chats again from Disney Duncan. Thank you. First off, $5. To think that Guardians of the Galaxy 3 gave us the MCU's first F-bomb before Deadpool 3, which will be the first R-rated MCU film. Yeah, you would have thought that Deadpool would be the first F-bomb, right?
Yeah, you would think.
Yeah, you would think. But that was a good F-bomb in Guardians 3, though. It was pretty funny. It was a good one. It wasn't wasted, that's for sure. And then with $2, thank you so much, saying, imagine Tom Holland being Bowser Jr., LOL. You know what? I could see it. I could actually see it, or hear it, I should say.
Yeah.
I could hear it. I don't know that would be a bad casting choice, actually. So I could hear it. Next up, Ryan Hanley with $2. Thank you, Ryan. Stephanie Beatriz for Daisy. Keep up the good work. Well, thank you. And I'm definitely not looking up Stephanie Beatriz right now to find out who she is. She was on Brooklyn Nine-Nine. Do you know the name, Steve?
I do not. Stephanie Beatriz.
She's Mirabelle Madrigal in Disney Dreamlight Valley. Yeah, she was in Robot Chicken. She was in
Encanto.
Oh, okay, cool. Oh, that makes sense because she was the same probably voice in Dreamlight Valley. She's also in, or she's going to be in the upcoming Twisted Metal show coming out.
Nice.
She's in Family Guy. Okay, cool. Yeah, I don't know her by name, but that's really cool. I'm going to assume that you are right, that she'd be a good fit for Daisy. Thank you, Ryan. Next up, Disney Duncan with another $5. Thank you so much. Anyone excited for Deadpool 3? Saw Wolverine's new costume. If you haven't seen the last two, they're on Disney Plus along with Logan. Absolutely, yes. I'm looking forward to Deadpool 3. Are you kidding? Of course I am. What about, I'm sure you are too, Steve, right?
Oh, yeah. Deadpool 3 is high on my list. I'm very, very excited to check it out.
For sure, for sure. And then Rec BCQ with $2. Thank you so much. This is good. Going back to our topic about iconic video game quotes. I'm sorry, I'm going to butcher this accent, but yes, among all the billions of other things Uni says that are awesome in Xenoblade 3, what about babies? You got any babies? Yeah, and of course there's like, hear that, Noah? Lance wants something a bit meatier. Like, yeah, you can't make those up. Those are, Uni is a gold mine of amazing quotes in Xenoblade 3. So Yeah, wow, you guys are just, I know I say this, but you're all so generous. So many super chats, but
Yeah,
that
thank
is,
you.
in fact, the last one. So thank you all so much. That does mean we have reached the end of episode 65 of the GVG cast. And as always, we have to give a special shout out to all of our patrons at the producer tier and above for helping to keep the lights on here, because without you, we could not do and keep on doing what we do. So thank you so very much. And of course, also as always, we have to give an extra special shout out to all of our patrons at the executive producer tier and above. And those amazing, wonderful, peerless folks include Brandon Bovia, Cutie Caitlin, Fangs, Z Patty, Just Brian, Sky Blue Flames, Eastman23, Adam O'Sullivan, Richard Herrera, Logan Daniel, The D-Pad, Vesnio, Blake, Critter XD, Joy Content, Angel Martinez, Vedran, Joshua Hunter, Benny Yao, Azran127, Black King, Joseph Rutkin, Geeky Griffin, Lucky Wonderfish, Wataniac, Top Dog 23100, Young Ben Kenobi, Doug Shomix, Andrew Medeiros, Brady Power, Darchi, Becca, Killamox, Sean Davis, Michael McCaw, Matthew Wong, Goron Amber CPHT, Too Much Spaghetti, Bane 400, Ascaron 809, Ryaner, Rain and Clouds, The Game Orb, Super Gamer Dude 101, Grantles, Ravelox, Rosa Pardo Bowling,
Hi, Mom.
Skull Kid Tiger, Dark Steel 01, Jason Uloa, Jaden Buck, Cystic Warrior 29, DJ Jurassic, Super Dank Awesome Unicorn Guy, Derek, Colin, Blaystar 25, Mumbling Yeti, Cameron Sharp, Keel, Moon Knight, Brendan Hesse, Hustlebun, Noah Fitterer, Calvin Atkinson, Brainchild, the entire state of Wisconsin, Jim Wakeland, Longboy Shiggy, Aramis Baramis, Dylan, Kyle the Monarch, Dat Alpha Lion, Lord Metarex, Blaze Collard, Eric, Cat Evie Person 5, Peyton Thiel, Mega Beatman True Blue Reviews, Jung Ant, Ryan Hanley, Somnia, The Game Jamie, and last but certainly not least, Danny Walsh. Whew, thank you so much. It is my pleasure and honor to read that list out almost every week. I should mention that I will not be hosting the next couple of GVG casts. I will hopefully at least appear on some of them, but I did mention last week or a couple weeks ago that a friend of mine passed recently, and I am going to his wake next Friday, and it's happening during the show. So I will not be here next week. And then I'm doing a convention with my dad in Florida the following weekend. And then I've got Evo the following weekend after that. So I should be here on the show for a couple of those. But in terms of hosting, it'll be a couple of weeks before I'm back in the hosting chair.
Show.
It'll be your show. So look forward to that, everybody. Thank you so much, everyone. We love doing this with you every week. And we'll see you next time. Good night and good vibes. Bye, everybody.
Bye.